For most of these vocab questions, the ideal situation is that something in the sentence kind of gives us the definition that we're looking for. It kind of just mimics what the blank is saying. And this sentence is definitely set up that way. Monica Lopez Ferreira and others at Brazil's Butantan Institute are studying the freshwater stingray species, whatever, to determine whether biological characteristics, such as the ray's age and sex, have some effect on the toxicity of their venom. That's such a great phrase, to see if differences in these traits are associated with considerable variations in venom potency. So they are absolutely repeating themselves. In fact, in English, this phrase, that is kind of a way of saying, hey, I'm going to say the same thing I just said in different words, right? It's kind of a short for the transition in other words. So look for this, right? This is a gimme. They're telling you, hey, we're repeating ourselves, so something in that second part is going to give you the blank. And I highlighted the word considerable because they're trying to find what kind of effect it has. And so they're saying that they want to know if it has a considerable effect. And hopefully you know that the word considerable means something just kind of like large, right, with a large variations in venom potency. And so a word that means something is large, is big, is important, is substantial. So definitely a good word to know for all sorts of parts of the SAT, but it is pretty much a dead-on synonym for the word considerable here. So if we can understand how the SAT constructs these sentences and when they set us up with some sort of little shortcut, we want to be able to take that. Now, as far as the other words go, disconcerting is kind of making something uneasy, right? If something is disconcerting, it's kind of worrisome. And so I guess, yes, in a way, venom would be worrying. If you got stung by the stingray, that would be bad. But that's not what they're talking about here. They're not actually saying whether the effect is good or bad. They're talking about whether it is large or small. And those are two different things, right? I mean, it's a scientific approach, not like if I got stung by the stingray, a large amount of venom would be bad, right? Like we're not getting into that. So this is definitely a negative word. Acceptable, obviously a positive word, so there's a little bit of an opposite there. And then imperceptible means kind of the opposite of what we're trying to say. If something is imperceptible, it's very small, right? It cannot be perceived. That's where that word comes from. Perceptible means perceivable, so imperceptible is not perceivable. So that doesn't make any sense. So hopefully all these words are now known to you. One other piece of advice is remember that when the science starts to sound very scientific, that's not the topic of the question. That's not necessary to understand. There's a reason I didn't even bother trying to pronounce the name of this stingray species. I don't care about it. I'm not going to learn about stingrays. It is not part of the question, so don't waste any brain power trying to understand stuff like that.